Hello everyone, Cherries Red Army, match preview 18, top of the championship. AFC Bournemouth take on bottom of the championship in negative points now. Derby County, Pride Park, Sunday on Sky Sports, 12 o'clock kickoff. We're going to go through this match in more detail. Going to have a Bournemouth fan joining me very, very soon. We'll also have an opposition view. We'll try and predict that Scott Parker lineup and we'll get some predictions as well. But make sure if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Do help us try and reach that 1,000 marker. Also hit the like button and we want to hear your comments ahead of this game. Let's get on with match preview 18. And I've got Jon Spark joining me, Mr. XG. International football's done for a good while now. We're back on it, aren't we, John? And how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thank you. Yep, it'll be a relief to know that international football is not going to turn up in our lives again until March. So a nice, healthy, prolonged period of watching the Cherries hopefully maintain their impressive starts of the season.
Let's get on with it then, John, and let's remind ourselves of that last fixture for AFC Bournemouth. We got back to winning ways after losing against Preston. That was a 4-0 win against Swansea. Took 20 minutes to get going, John, didn't it? But once we did get going down that left-hand side, Leif Davis grew in confidence. Billing fed it to Dom Solanke. He scored the goal and we grew into the game and we dominated the game comfortably in the end.
Yeah, I think it's Jaden Anthony probably comes out with the most credit from that performance in terms of his involvement in the goals, getting the pre-assist for the first two goals and then obviously scoring the final two. Leif Davis getting an impressive showing in his first start in his actual position. Certainly in the build-up to that game, I think there was a little bit of conversation going on amongst the fan base between, is it Davis, is it Brady? Surely he's not going to stick with Mepham. And as much as I wanted Davis to start, I did fully expect him to pick Brady. So I was pleasantly surprised for Davis to start and really thrilled for him to have quite a nervy start. Certainly the first 20 minutes, I think the entire team really had sort of a bit of a nervy start, but he really grew into the game and was absolutely fantastic going into that, and a thoroughly deserved win. 4-0 maybe is a little bit generous in terms of Swansea did pressure us and really, we're very close to getting a goal and, a possible penalty as well. But, in the second half in particular, we just ran riot and took him to the cleaners, really.
Two great goals from Dom Solanke, 2 goals from Jaden Anthony. Both goalkeepers on the pitch that day as well. I think they're the most informed goalkeepers. But Hamer, he doesn't like coming to the Vitality Stadium. He conceded 3 when he played for Huddersfield last season and got whipped off at half-time. And another 4 to the record of his. Mark Travers, another clean sheet.
Yeah, and not just him, the manager obviously doesn't like coming to Bournemouth either, considering he's now conceded 9 goals in 2 games and not scored in the same season for 2 different clubs. Mark Travers now most clean sheets in the league, sitting behind the strongest defence as well. And in this game, he did have to make some saves, which is not what you can say about a few games before some of the games we've had earlier in this season. And in regards to how much he's been tested, and I think there's still areas of his game that all Bournemouth fans would still say, look, there are other keepers that are better than him, but he's getting the experience of playing regular game time. He's got plenty of things that he still needs to work on. He's only going to do that by actually playing matches and getting involved in competition and confrontation with opposition teams. And that's regards to his passing. Certainly his mid-range kicking needs improving to the fullbacks. And, how dominant is he in his box? He's getting better, and he's going to keep getting better if he plays games. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, hopefully he gets the rest of the season, but obviously we don't know what happens in January.
Derby County then, the opposition for us in this fixture. It's not been a great season for them on and off the pitch, and the news doesn't get any better, does it, John? They've had another 9 points deduction. They accepted that. That's put them into negative points now of -3. Where do they go from here in this fixture? I mean, the players must be on the floor and deflated.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what that feels like when, they started the season really well. And if you look, they've got 18 points if you don't include the points deduction, and that would keep them, 5 clear of the relegation zone, to 3 or 5 points clear of the relegation zone. And now they're 18 points away from getting out of it. So, they've not been on the best run. They haven't won a game since the end of September, which was against Reading. They've drawn 5 out of the last 7, losing the other 2, one of which was to Barnsley, who I think is the worst team in the division. So, yeah, they're not going to be in a very good place at the moment. Wayne Rooney would have been pulling off an even bigger escape than Eddie Howe, probably, if he'd got them up before they got an extra 9 points added to their deduction. And now it's just, that would be some hell of a miracle escape, that one, but I don't see it coming. As for this game against us, well, Derby's an interesting bogey team for us in terms of we actually haven't beaten them since the 84-85 season, which is the only 2 games we've beaten them, and we did the double over them that time, and that was our first league games against them. Since then, 8-9 games, we haven't beaten them once. So it's an interesting one. We only got 1 point off them last season, and that was a real weakness of us in terms of beating the teams lower down the table last season. You've only got to look at us against Sheffield Wednesday as well. So, they've got more of a passing style this season, I think, under Wayne Rooney. Wants them to play football, but their defensive strength for long periods was the thing that was keeping them together. They're not the best goal scorers in the division by any means, and going up against a team like Bournemouth that can turn up and put 2 or 3 past basically anyone, it's going to be really tough for them. But we've gone to Peterborough and we've gone to Hull and not exactly put across the best performance. So anything can still happen. This is the Championship, but Bournemouth are massive favourites.
You've been doing your homework. You've taken stats off me. I was preparing them for later. At this point, though, in the match preview, we normally get an opposition view, and we're going to do that right now. So for our latest opposition view on the channel, this match preview is a big welcome to BBC journalist, Derby County commentator, Ed Dawes. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. And firstly, it's been a tough couple of years. I know that we've had Chris Temple on from Solent, but you must be glad that fans are back in the stadium. You must feed off it, and it's great to be back to some sort of normality.
I do feed off it. You're right. It's been a really odd couple of years without the supporters. But, credit to the authorities for getting the games on and giving those fans something to look forward to midweek or at the end of the week. But yeah, having them back, it's great. It's like they've not been away. So it's just nice to hear the atmosphere and to see people's faces and to have something to bounce off, especially as a commentator where you thrive on that atmosphere. And they fill the voids when you're taking a breath, really.
As a fan, it's great to be back. It's like re-energised me as a season ticket holder at Bournemouth. Before we get stuck into this fixture, though, Ed, we need to have a big shout out to someone special. He's a Cherries fan. He's a Cherries Red Army supporter member. He's a good family friend of yours as well. Tell us a little bit about Neil Whedon, and he enabled us to get this chat going.
I've known Neil since I was probably about 5 years old. He used to play cricket with my dad. And he was always a Bournemouth fan because obviously when you grow up I grew up in Sutton Coldfield, which is, where I knew Neil. And when you support an obscure team to that area, so Derby, for example, and he was Bournemouth and everyone else was Villa or West Brom or Birmingham or Walsall, you were kind of an outsider. So you would stick to your allegiance and you'd have something in common. So obviously Neil and my dad and me, we talked football all the time, and we talked about the Rams and Bournemouth, and obviously Bournemouth have been really successful in the last 10 years and come from sort of, I don't know, rather left field and got into the Premier League and been really successful. So at that time when we knew each other years ago, Derby were in the old Division 3 and Bournemouth were down there as well. So now it's a case of we've actually seen the big time, and Derby aren't likely to see the big time any near soon. But they played cricket. I was the scorer, and Neil used to bowl spin, as I remember. And these little details, it's really strange. I'm sure when I was a kid, he had red frame glasses, and I think it was a Duncan Fernley cricket bat, and he kept wicket as well. But we always talked about football and cricket, and yeah, he's a good guy.
Top man, and we're lucky to have you, Neil, as a Cherries fan. Right, let's get on with the opposition for you. And Derby County, they just escaped relegation last year, Ed. And I was going to ask you sort of how the feeling was around Pride Park this season. They were hit with a 12-point deduction, and this week hit with a further 9. Where do they go from here? -3 points.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Where do they go from here? Well, I think it's all about dignity now. Obviously, Derby have been caught doing things not above the norm, which is why they got the 9 points this week. And then, obviously, we were all very surprised that they went into administration, because with my conversation with the chairman, he said that was the last thing that he would have done or wanted to do. So when he put them into administration, and I found out on the Friday night actually and ran with it, which is quite scary really, because you've got to get that right. And we were all a bit gobsmacked. There was a lot of anger amongst supporters. And then Derby played Stoke the following day after the announcement. And the team came out and played really well and beat Stoke at Pride Park. And it was their first home win. The atmosphere that day was really strange because there were tears, a lot of tears. A lot of fans were very emotional because at that point you didn't know, obviously the financial side of it suddenly came to the fore, and everyone was a bit kind of, whoa, we're in that much trouble. And people were really thinking that they might not have a football club to support. But they beat Stoke, and it was a kind of a siege mentality, us and them type thing at that point, where you had leaders like Curtis Davis and you had Phil Jagielka and you had players in midfield who were really sort of fighting for the cause, and they produced a performance that sent the fans away happy. There's been a lot of effort from the players this season. It's a better brand of football, and I think the supporters can rise to that. It gets them off their seat, and they can see that they're doing everything to, you know, try and make the best of a bad situation. That was until this week, and obviously the further 9 points means that they've, you know, they're 18 points behind. I think it's fourth from bottom, and it's just, it'll be interesting to see the reaction on Sunday, not only from players but from supporters as well, because realistically I think that's far too much to even consider survival, especially with a squad that is threadbare. And we haven't really gone into open season on injuries yet, should that happen. So it's a struggle, I think.
You talked about that brand of football not being too bad. I think you had a pretty good spell at the start of the season. No win in 5, though. Last fixture was a 1-1 draw against Millwall. But you've got Wayne Rooney at the helm. He stuck around. Is he going to continue to stick around off the back of this latest news?
I think it's very much who buys the club from the administrators. There are two, as far as I'm aware, there are two leading figures. One is Chris Kirchner, American entrepreneur, who is connected in a way to Paul Stretford, who is Wayne Rooney's agent. They have the same agent or representation in PR. Wayne Rooney has said that he when he talks to him, he likes his ideas. He's asked him to do things or to look into things that he already has done. So Chris Kirchner has been open on Twitter that he's interested. He formally wrote a letter to supporters saying, this is the plan. I would love to be able to do this, which is a kind of weird moment, because if it doesn't work, then he disappears, like Eric Alonso and the people from Abu Dhabi who really didn't come to the wicket at all. But he's one main player. The other one is a chap. Well, It's the former CEO and chairman of Derby, Andy Appleby, who's fronting a consortium we're yet to find out more about in America. And he has connections with Sam Rush, who was a former chief executive. So they're part of this group. I don't know who the backers are yet. They're keeping it very, under wraps. But so there are two schools of thought where you could get your American entrepreneur in who has proven his funds already, or another consortium for North America who took over the club in the last, 2008 it was, where they had to steady the ship after that disastrous season in the Premier League. That was part of the same group that Andy Appleby is now kind of related to. So it depends who gets it. So Kirchner and Rooney have that relationship. The other consortium, I don't think that they'll stick with Rooney. I think they might make a change.
Interestingly, the two teams, Derby fans could potentially look at Bournemouth's history and see that as long as it looks at the moment, it doesn't look great. Potentially, it might turn around in years to come like it did for Bournemouth. So we'll have to see. Living within the football match, though, and within the 90 minutes, I think Derby have had 3 wins this season, 2 at home, 1 away, 5 losses with only 1 at home, which is interesting. But the important stat I'm looking at on the opposition is goals. Only 13 goals this season. And when you look at the top goal scorer, am I right in thinking that Curtis Davis, the centre-back, is the top goal scorer? And you've got players like Baldock and Tom Lawrence in the team.
Yeah, Curtis is an absolute Trojan, is Curtis. He's such a great leader, and he scored a header, he scored a tap-in, he scored a volley. He scored a volley in the last home game, I think it was, as well. And he's an unlikely hero with his goal scoring. But yeah, Tom Lawrence, for me, he's underperformed for years in the fact that he can have amazing games, absolutely dictate them, score some wonderful goals, but then go missing in others. And that's really frustrating because he's obviously got the talent, but I guess that's the reason why he's playing for Derby and he didn't get too much of a say at Manchester United, and he's not in the Wales setup consistently either. He had a really good game last time out, and that was against Millwall. He was everywhere and he dominated. Wayne Rooney made him captain at the start of the season instead of Curtis Davis, who had been on and off captain for a couple of years when injuries and all that kind of kicked off with car crashes and stuff. But he was hoping that Tom Lawrence would take that armband mantle and really sort of drive his form forward. But again, it's inconsistent. He can score goals. Sam Baldock came in. He's got not a great injury record over the years. He scored Derby's goal away at Hull when they won their first game of the season, 1-0. And he's got another one since at Barnsley. The thing is about Sam Baldock, which I like, he runs off the shoulder of the defender, which when you've got ball players like Ravel Morrison in midfield, he can find those passes. Jason Knight can find those passes to him. So, yeah, he's a natural goal scorer. And then there's the other one you didn't mention, was Colin Kazim-Richards, who's 34, massive unit, but he's not going to run off the shoulder. He's going to come off the front, take up possession, and hope that runners come round him where he can lay the ball off. Because Derby's problem is they've done that, but he's not fast enough to get on the end of the crosses that come in, whereas Baldock can do that, or the runners from midfield can do that. So goals have been a problem, and ultimately that, I think, would have been a real problem for Derby should they had no points deductions. But you just never know with Derby. They're so Jekyll and Hyde, and if they'd have converted the chances they'd created over the season, they'd have been comfortably mid-table. I mean, that's without points deductions, of course. And
Wayne Rooney's dealing with this week, and then he's got to take on Bournemouth, top of the Championship, scoring for fun, 31 goals this season. Ed, how are you expecting Wayne Rooney to line up on Sunday? Is it going to be an attacking? Can he attack Bournemouth and try and get Derby ahead, or is it a low block? Because Bournemouth have struggled with a low block. We have dropped points against Hull City, Peterborough and Blackpool.
It's an interesting one now, isn't it? Because obviously the 9 points has gone in this week, and Wayne Rooney said earlier in the season that if if that happened and it made survival insurmountable, that he might start planning for next season and putting in the youngsters. I think you can't afford to do that kind of thing against Bournemouth and Fulham, but also before you're halfway, it makes a mockery of the league if you start doing that, and it's not really very fair. But they've got nothing to lose. I always like Derby to play at home and play on the front foot, whoever they're playing against. We've seen Bournemouth come to Derby before in good form and just not perform. So, this season, Derby have Fulham on Wednesday as well. So, Sunday and Wednesday, they've got the top two. It's incredible. But I think they'll be cautious, and I think they will try and deal with the attacking threat. They've been very good defensively this season, up until the last couple of weeks before the international break, when they've conceded a couple of sloppy goals. So if they've worked on that and returned to their sort of ways of not conceding stupid goals, I think it'll be a tight game. But if Bournemouth score first, if they score early, I think it could be quite difficult mentally for the crowd, for Derby to contain what I would presume would be a bit of a bombardment.
So we're going to get a score prediction off you in just a moment, Ed. And I wasn't expecting this season as a Bournemouth fan to go into most weeks feeling very, very confident, but I do seem to do it every week. Then, do you know what? I look at the head-to-heads. Derby, we literally haven't beaten Derby since 1985. 4 wins, 2 draws in the last 6. Obviously, we lost at Pride Park last season. In some of the games I've gone to in recent history, Chris Martin's been involved and taken, given all the 3 points to Derby. Yes, it's history. And you know what? We've broken a lot of records this season. I mean, do you think Derby can get anything from this game? And can Bournemouth potentially break that record of not beating Derby since 1985?
1985, blimey. That's amazing. It's a long time. I mean, we've not really played each other a lot over the course of history, have we? I think, just a handful of games. I think if Derby can be resolute and defend properly, I think they could get a point out of the game. But then again, with everything that's gone on this week, they could end up just winning the game and end up setting the odds. It's, bottom of the league against teams near the top. You've got nothing to lose. Go for it. Play your own game. Derby score first. You just don't know. I think it might be tight, and I think it might be tighter than people looking at Derby and their form. They might be surprised that if Derby get a point, they'll be quite satisfied with that.
It's just never as simple as it looks in the Championship. Score prediction then, Ed. What do you think the score will be?
1-1.
1-1. Covering the game Sunday?
Yeah, we'll be there at Pride Park. Full commentary on BBC Radio Derby, and I don't like international breaks because you get into a routine. So yeah, match on Sunday, away to Fulham on Wednesday, and then back at Pride Park the following week. I think it's Blackpool. So you've just got to make sure, as fans and as players, that they go through the rest of the season keeping their dignity and trying to avoid, I think it's 23 points or something like that is the lowest Championship. There's a target that Derby have got to get now. I think they don't want that record. They've got the worst Premier League record for points. They don't want the worst Championship record for points. That should be the first thing.
I suppose the mentality's just got to be one game at a time. Well, we hope you enjoy the game Sunday. Obviously, we want the Cherries to get a result, but we do appreciate you coming on the channel. Hopefully, we might speak to you in the future as well. But good luck with the rest of the season, Ed.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you to Ed there for that opposition view, but we're going to come back to Bournemouth then, John. And Scott Parker, he's had players go out on international duty, Christie, Kilkenny, but now it's back to Championship football, and we're going to try and predict that starting 11. There's going to be lots of games coming up to Christmas. It's going to get very interesting. Do you see many changes before we bring up that predicted football pitch that we're going to show in a minute?
I can't see many changes happening when they put across such a good performance against Swansea that they did to get a 4-0 win. I certainly expect no changes at this point. When you look at the players that went out on international duty, Kilkenny played both games. Christie only played one. Lerma did go to Colombia, I believe, this time. I think he was on international
Yep.
duty. So that's the only one that I think probably will change, particularly as I'm not sure Colombia have played their second game yet. They do. South American ones do tend to happen later for some reason in the international window. So Lerma's the only one I could see getting pulled out, which would be an ideal opportunity for Lewis Cook to come back in. Because I really do feel as though the position that Lerma has as one of the first names on the team sheet, I think he's so vital in the way that Parker wants to set out offensively and defensively, because this formation that you've got there, the 4-3-3, that's how we set up when we're going forward. When we play in going defensively, when we're on the back foot, we actually play more of a 4-4-2. Lerma drops to where Kilkenny is, and you end up with a pretty flat two banks of four. So Lerma has the tactical and intelligence to be everywhere on the pitch, wherever he needs to be. And when you think about other midfield options, who else is really going to be able to fulfill that role? And I think Lewis Cook is probably the only one that's got the defensive ability and offensive ability, the technical ability and the intelligence to really play everywhere at once. So that's the player. That's the only real position I could see changing. Zamora, I think is still injured, so I think Davis will continue his position. Stacey's been playing too well to get dropped for Smith, as far as I'm concerned. Kelly and Cahill, unless they picked up injury somewhere, they'll be playing. And Anthony scoring 2 goals, Solanke scoring 2 goals. I don't see that changing. Christie, again, don't see that changing. So, yeah, probably at least 10 will be the same, I would have thought.
Okay, so that lineup on the screen is the lineup against Swansea. Travers, Stacey, Cahill, Kelly, Davis, Kilkenny, Billing, Lerma, Christie, Anthony and Solanke. Big question then, John. I want commitment from you, just like we do on the Fan Hub. Are you going to lock this in?
Pearson could come in, but it's Lerma that may be back from international duty late and probably get rested. We've got so many games coming up. We're into the busy Christmas period. It's Lerma that would be the one that I would consider being most likely to be changed. Again, Kilkenny could be changed for Pearson. That's definitely an option. But when you consider we're going to be expected to dominate this game, and we're going to want someone to help break down a very stubborn defence. Derby were joint best defence with us for a little while. Despite being bottom of the table. So you're going to need someone to dictate this game and really spread those balls out quickly. And you're going to need Kilkenny for that. So I think he'll stay. And the only person I could see changing is Lerma. And I would see Lewis Cook coming in for him.
Jump off the fence then. Is it Lerma or Lewis Cook, your predicted 11 for this?
Yeah, And Lewis Cook in most pictures is 11. In projecting 11.
And I'm looking at the right Cook here. Right, here we go. Lewis Cook, we're locking it in for John there on this match preview. That is your starting 11 with Mark Travers in goal, Jack Stacey, Cahill, Kelly, Davis, Kilkenny, Lewis Cook, Philip Billing, Christie, Anthony and Solanke. If you disagree with that formation, let us know in the comments. And who would you pick different? Okay, so we're going to get a score prediction from you in a moment, John, but you did talk about Derby being a bit of a bogey team. We haven't beaten them in a long time. The last 6 games, 4 wins to Derby, 2 draws, lost at Pride Park last season. How does this game go? Do the Cherries get a win against Derby? Do we continue that winning run that we had before the international break and try and continue to open the gap between us and the playoffs?
Well, so far this season, we've been all about breaking records. So I have a feeling that this is another one that we will be breaking as well. Very confident of the win. There's going to be an element of sort of, I say backlash. That there's going to be one or two ways that obviously the recent decision with regards to Derby's point deduction is going to go. Either it'll flatten them or it'll galvanise them. We could be in for quite a tough time with international break just come up. They'll be rested. Some of our players, not so much. It'll be a tough game, but I certainly fully expect us to win. And I certainly expect us to keep a clean sheet. We've only conceded 1 goal away from home all season, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I'm going to go with 3-0 to Bournemouth.
I'm going to go with a clean sheet as well. That normally means we concede a goal when I go for a clean sheet, or the other way around. But I'm going to go for 2-0 in this game, and we'll pick up 3 points and stay top of the championship. John, you're going to the game. You picked up a ticket. You're happy?
Yeah, it's the difficult part for me wasn't getting the ticket; it was sorting out the train tickets to get there and back. But yeah, I will be making my way over to Derby, getting to my first game since Hull. Actually,
Hull.
that was my last game. So yeah, it'd be fantastic to meet a bunch of supporters that I haven't seen before, hopefully, and fully expect to come back with 3 points.
I won't be at this game. Bournemouth Youth Football gets in my way on a Sunday, unfortunately, but I will catch up with the first half, definitely. We'll miss the second half live, but I'll catch up with the highlights and I'll get some feedback from John and the other supporters that I regularly chat to. But thank you to John. Thank you to you for checking us out on this video. Make sure you let us know your thoughts ahead of this fixture and your score prediction. Until the next video, we'll see you soon. Up the Cherries.